You've reached the end of the day, and whether it felt heavy or hollow, frantic or numb, this is the part where you no longer have to keep holding it together. Right now, there's nothing to fix, nothing to prove. You're here, and that's enough. Let's begin not by doing anything, but by pausing. Let your attention return to your body, the quiet rhythm of your breath, the weight of your limbs, the space around you. You don't need to perform calm. You just need to notice what's already here. If your mind is still racing, you're not doing anything wrong. That's just what minds do when they've been carrying too much for too long. Thoughts may keep arriving, but you don't have to follow them tonight. You can let them pass through like weather. You are the sky, vast, steady, untouched by the passing clouds. There's likely a part of you that still feels responsible for everything, responsible for being okay, for fixing what hurts, for keeping your pain hidden so others feel comfortable. But this moment isn't asking anything from you. You don't have to be inspiring. You don't have to be strong. You don't have to be healed. You're allowed to simply be tired. You've done enough for today, even if nothing felt productive, even if your inner voice has been harsh, even if you felt disconnected from yourself. Your nervous system has been working overtime just to exist in the world as it is. That matters. And now you get to rest, not as an escape, but as a return to something quieter, older, more truthful than the noise of the day. This space is not a reward you need to earn. It's a necessity, a right, a place where you get to be a human being again, not a project in progress. So here's what I'll offer tonight: my presence, a steady voice to sit beside the parts of you that feel too much or not enough. You don't need to agree with every word. Just let the sound of them keep you company as your body winds down. You're safe here. Not because everything in life is fixed, but because this space holds no judgment, only breath and warmth, and a gentle reminder that you are still here and still worthy, even in your weariness. You are allowed to stop. You are allowed to sleep. You are allowed to wake tomorrow and try again, with softness, not shame. Sleep is often mistaken for retreat, an escape, a sign that we're shutting down or giving up. But that's a story written by a world that glorifies exhaustion. The truth is, sleep is one of the most courageous acts of trust we have. It's the moment when we let go of control, when we surrender the tasks we didn't finish, the thoughts we couldn't resolve, the versions of ourselves we tried to be. It's a return, not to weakness, but to wholeness, not to laziness, but to life. Imagine, just for a moment, that sleep isn't the absence of activity, but the presence of something ancient, a sacred rhythm, the tide returning to shore, the way trees surrender their leaves in autumn, not because they failed, but because rest is part of their wisdom. Your body knows how to rest, even if your mind resists, even if part of you still clings to the tension. You were never meant to run on alert forever. You are part of nature, not separate from it. Consider the stars above you now, even if you can't see them. They shine quietly. They do not ask to be noticed. They do not rush or compete. They simply are. Constant, patient, enough. What if you could be like that tonight? What if rest didn't need to be earned? What if it was your birthright? There's a softness that returns in the dark. Not a danger, not an emptiness, but a gentle hum that wraps around the edges of your thoughts. This quiet is not a punishment. It's a homecoming. The world will go on while you sleep. The unfinished tasks will wait. The doubts and questions may still be there tomorrow, but you don't have to carry them now. You can set them down, like stones from your pockets, one by one. There is no reward at the end of perfect vigilance, no medal for staying tense. Your worth is not defined by how tightly you hold everything together. Sleep is the opposite of defeat. It's the restoration of trust in your body, in your breath, in the idea that you are not alone, even in stillness. Just as the ocean pulls back from the shore each night, only to return with the morning, you too are allowed to ebb and flow, to rest and rise. You are not disappearing. You are restoring. Let the night take what it needs to. Let it cradle the tired parts of you, the overworked thoughts, the self-doubt, the small ache in your chest that says, I should have done more. Let all of it go, without urgency, without shame. You are not falling behind. You are falling inward, back to yourself, back to something softer. And in this quiet return, you are not alone. Let me tell you a story. Not a dramatic one, not a miracle turnaround, but something real, quiet, the kind of story you might see in someone's eyes and never know. Her name was Mara. She was the kind of person who kept everything running. At work, she was the one who stayed late. Among friends, she listened more than she spoke. In her family, she was the one who always remembered birthdays, paid attention to the details, kept things moving, while silently unraveling inside. No one told her to carry so much, but somewhere along the way, she'd absorbed the message that being lovable meant being useful, that you earned safety by staying busy, that being tired was just part of being responsible. So, she stayed in motion, always available, always answering, always anticipating what might go wrong and trying to fix it before anyone noticed. But inside, she felt hollow, like she was performing someone else's idea of who she should be. Then one evening, an ordinary Tuesday, she came home, dropped her bag on the floor, and sat on the edge of the couch. She didn't move, not for minutes, not for hours. Her coat was still on, her phone was buzzing in her bag, but her body had stopped before her mind gave permission. And for the first time, she listened. She didn't have a breakdown, she didn't cry. It wasn't dramatic. It was still. But inside that stillness was a quiet recognition. I can't keep doing this. She didn't know what to change, but she knew she had to stop treating rest like failure. She had to stop asking her body to endure what her heart hadn't even named. That night, before bed, she placed her hand on her chest. Not to soothe herself, just to remember she was still there, still breathing, still here. The next day, nothing looked different from the outside. She went to work, smiled, checked things off her list. But something had shifted. A thread had been pulled from the tight weave of her performance. She started asking herself, once a day, then twice, what do I need right now? Not what she should do, not what others wanted, just that small, sacred question. At first, the answers were simple. Silence, a slower morning, 10 minutes with her phone off. Sometimes it was more difficult. Space from certain people, saying no without explanation, crying without rushing to stop. She didn't become someone new. She became someone real. And with that came a different kind of strength, the kind rooted in softness. Mara realized resilience wasn't about pushing through at any cost. It was about knowing when to pause, when to protect your energy like something valuable, when to say, this is enough for now. Mara's shift didn't happen all at once. It was slow, uneven, but real. And maybe that's the point. Healing doesn't always come as a breakthrough. Sometimes it begins as a quiet decision to stop abandoning yourself. The reason her story stays with me is because it reveals something important. Resilience isn't found in how long we endure. It lives in the moment we soften. We live in a world that teaches us to keep going no matter what. Push harder, stay productive, stay impressive. But your nervous system was never designed for endless pressure. It was designed to adapt, to protect, to learn, and most importantly, to recover. Think of clay warmed in your hands. When it's rigid, it cracks. But with gentle heat, it becomes pliable, shapeable, alive again. Mara didn't become stronger by becoming tougher. She became stronger by becoming more responsive, by noticing what hurt instead of ignoring it, by giving herself permission to feel what was real. That's where real growth happens, in presence, not performance. It's like the roots of a tree. They don't grow during the storm. They grow slowly, invisibly, underground, where it's dark and quiet. But that quiet is not empty. It's where the next season begins. And right now, you may be in your own kind of winter. Not lifeless, but regenerating. Rebuilding in ways you can't fully see yet. That's not failure, that's nature. The difficult emotions you feel, they're not signs that something's wrong with you. They're signals, messengers. They're asking to be acknowledged, not avoided. You might be tired of hearing that it gets better. I won't say that. Because sometimes what gets better isn't the world. It's your relationship with yourself. It's when you start responding to pain with care instead of shame. It's when you begin to trust that even in your lowest moments, you are still forming, still becoming. Just like Mara, you don't need to leap into change. You just need to notice where you're holding too tightly and soften, even slightly. That small shift, it's powerful. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to change, begins with noticing, with presence, with doing something differently, even once. A breath, a pause, a kinder thought. It doesn't feel like much at first, but it rewires something ancient in you. The belief that you are only as good as your output, that you have to earn rest, that softness is weakness. But tonight, in this space, you are allowed to believe something else, that growth can happen in silence, that slowing down is not falling behind, that rest is not the opposite of healing. It is the soil from which it grows. So if your chest feels heavy, or your mind is tangled, or your heart feels distant, that's okay. You are still worthy, still becoming, still here.
Growth begins in softness, then meaning often returns through noticing. Let me share another story, this one quieter still, but just as real. His name was Elias. There was a time when Elias barely felt present in his own life. His days moved like static. He wasn't in crisis, but something was missing. Color, maybe. Warmth. He couldn't remember the last time he felt awe, or even simple gladness. He kept himself busy. He worked. He answered messages. He made plans. But at night, when the distractions dimmed, there was a flatness behind his eyes, a kind of emotional numbness, as if he were watching his own life from a distance. One morning, during a walk he hadn't planned to take, something shifted. It was early. The streets were quiet. Mist still clung to the hedges, and as he crossed a narrow path by a garden wall, he noticed a single dandelion growing through a crack in the concrete. It wasn't special. It wasn't beautiful in any dramatic way. But he paused. For some reason, he couldn't look away. Something about the way it insisted on existing, delicate, overlooked, quietly bright, struck him. He didn't cry. He didn't have a revelation. But for the first time in months, he felt something stir. That day, he began noticing small things, not because he was trying to feel better, but because his body was starved for contact with the real world. The glint of sunlight on a window pane, the worn softness of his favorite jumper, the sound of birds arguing in the hedge outside his kitchen. He started keeping a notebook, not filled with goals or affirmations, but details. Orange light on pavement, warm mug in both hands, someone laughing next door. He didn't post them. He didn't even reread them. But each one was like a thread, reminding him that his life was still here, waiting to be re-entered.
Some days it was harder. The numbness returned, the ache of disconnection. But now he had a different way of relating to it. He didn't demand it to go away. He didn't shame himself for it. He just kept noticing. And through that noticing, gratitude emerged, not as something forced, but as something organic, not loud, not performative, just quiet and sincere. He began to feel more present, not because everything was okay, but because he had remembered how to be with what was real. And slowly, meaning returned, not through achievement, not through clarity, but through presence. Elias didn't become someone who loved every moment, but he became someone who showed up for them, with his senses, with his breath, with his heart cracked just wide enough to let the light back in. And in that shift, he discovered something healing. Life doesn't demand grand transformation. It asks only for your attention. Sometimes, just being able to feel again, even a little, is enough.
Elias didn't heal by doing more. He healed by paying attention.
And what he began to notice outside himself, the light, the warmth, the texture of the world, eventually turned inward. Because once you begin to witness life again, something else becomes clearer. How often you've been moving through it without kindness toward yourself. Many of us grew up learning to be responsible before we ever learned to be loved. We became good at managing, fixing, caretaking, but we were never shown how to soften toward ourselves when we felt small. And so the voice inside becomes sharp. The inner critic speaks first. When we struggle, we blame. When we ache, we hide. When we need, we feel ashamed. But here's the truth. There is no healing without self-compassion. Not performative self-love, not slogans or declarations, but the kind of care a weary child needs. Simple, honest, unconditional. That's the work of emotional reparenting. It's meeting yourself again and again with the voice you always needed to hear. It's okay to feel this. I won't leave you. You don't have to do anything to be worthy of care. Self-love isn't a feeling. It's a practice. A decision to stop abandoning yourself, even when the shame rises, even when the sadness stays longer than you'd like. You don't have to be confident to be kind to yourself. You don't have to feel healed to deserve rest. You just need to stop punishing yourself for being human. That's what Elias learned. Not all at once, but slowly, moment by moment. Each time he chose to treat his own experience with curiosity instead of judgment, something softened. He didn't have to fake positivity. He didn't have to become someone else. He just had to stay. Stay with the small parts of himself that still flinched from tenderness. Stay with the quiet ache that asked, "Am I enough yet?" And slowly, the answer became, "You already are." If you take nothing else from this tonight, let it be this. You are not too broken. You are not too late. You are not behind. Your softness is not a flaw. It's your doorway back to life. When the world feels overwhelming and the old stories return, don't fight them. Don't shame yourself for spiraling. Just offer a different voice, one that says, "You're allowed to feel this, and you're still safe." That's how healing begins. Not in trying harder, but in choosing gently, again and again, not to abandon yourself.
Let's take a breath together. Not a deep one, just a natural one, the kind you don't have to earn. You're still here, still listening, and that's more than enough. This next part isn't about doing anything. It's not a test. There are no right answers. I'm just going to ask a few gentle questions. You don't need to force a response. You don't need to analyze. Just notice what arises, if anything. If not, let the questions pass like a breeze through an open window. Let's begin with something simple. What part of you feels tired right now? Not just in your body, but inside you.
Maybe it's a part that's been trying to keep everything together. Maybe it's a younger version of you who's been waiting to be seen. If you could sit beside that part tonight, not to fix it, but just to listen, what would you want to say? Now ask yourself, what are you afraid might happen if you truly stop trying to be enough all the time? What would it mean to stop performing, even in your own mind? Often we confuse stillness with danger. We fear what might emerge in the silence. But what if the silence is where the truth has been waiting? Let's go a little deeper. When was the last time you felt safe? Not just physically, but emotionally. Who were you with, or were you alone? What did your body feel like in that moment? Your shoulders? Your breath? Your chest? You don't need to recreate it, just remember. Let it live in the background, like a familiar scent. Now, what have you been longing to hear from someone else, or maybe from yourself? Is it something like, "I'm proud of you. You didn't deserve that. You matter even when you're quiet"? Whatever it is, whisper it inward now. Let the part of you that needs it most receive it. You don't need to believe it yet. You just need to offer it. And now ask, what do you want to move toward? Not in a goal-driven way, but from the part of you that longs for peace. Maybe it's slowness. Maybe it's meaning. Maybe it's laughter or softness or the chance to be fully seen without shrinking. Whatever arises, trust it. Even if it's unclear, even if it feels too small to matter. Every quiet longing is a signal. You don't need a plan right now. You just need permission to want. Lastly, what would it feel like, just for tonight, to let yourself rest without guilt? Not because you finished everything, not because you earned it, but because you are human. Because your body is tired, because your heart has carried enough, because rest is not a reward, it is a right. Take another breath now, one that belongs only to you. Let it remind you that you are here, that you are worthy, that nothing more is needed tonight. Just this moment, just your presence, just this quiet unfolding.
Let me tell you one more story. It's not about success or transformation or doing something big. It's about something softer, something often missed. His name was Harold. He lived in a small town, the kind with narrow streets and neighbors who remembered each other's birthdays. He wasn't wealthy, he wasn't loud, he didn't have a following or a resume full of accomplishments, but he had something many people overlook: presence. He ran the post office for nearly 40 years. Every morning he opened the doors 10 minutes early, just in case someone needed to send something urgent. He learned people's names. He remembered when their children graduated or when their parents passed. He didn't say much, but he listened. He had a way of asking, "How are you?" that made people feel like the answer mattered. After he retired, most people assumed the town would forget him. But something unexpected happened. Little by little, people began sharing stories, not grand ones, not dramatic ones. A woman remembered how he noticed her hands shaking when she signed for a package after her divorce, and how he didn't ask questions, just offered her a seat in silence. A teenager recalled how Harold slipped a kind note into an envelope when he mailed her college application, just saying, "You're gonna be okay." A man shared how, after his father's funeral, Harold quietly walked out of the post office, handed him a thermos of tea, and said, "You don't have to talk. Just sit a while." None of these moments made headlines, but they left marks, gentle, human marks. Harold never saw himself as wise or special. He just showed up, fully, kindly, again and again. He never chased a legacy, but he left one. It lived in the way people spoke of him after he was gone, not with grandeur, but with gratitude. They said he made them feel seen, that in a world of rush and noise, he gave them a moment of stillness. And isn't that what so many of us are really longing for? To know we've mattered. Not because we were impressive, but because we were real. because our presence offered comfort, because we were willing to sit with someone else's pain or joy or silence without needing to fix it. Harold reminded people that being there, truly there, is its own kind of healing. And in doing so, he became unforgettable. You might never know how many lives you've touched simply by being kind, by slowing down, by noticing, by staying human in a world that often forgets how to be. You don't need a grand vision to leave something behind. You just need to keep showing up for your life with softness, with care, with the intention to see and be seen. Like Harold, you don't have to change the world, just touch it gently while you're here.
You've reached the end of this day, and here at the edge of sleep, let these words settle around you like a blanket. You are allowed to be unfinished. You are allowed to be in between. You are allowed to rest without knowing what comes next. Let your body soften. Let your thoughts slow, like a river easing into still water. There is nothing more to figure out tonight. No roles to play, no masks to wear, no parts of you need to be hidden here. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not too much. You are a human being, soft-edged, light-filled, worthy of rest. Feel the safety of the dark, not as emptiness, but as a quiet room that welcomes you home. The moon does not rush to shine. The tide does not apologize for returning. The trees do not hurry to bloom. You too can take your time. Right now, you are not expected to be anything but here. Let your breath become slower. Let your heart be held. You are not alone in this moment. You are not forgotten. You are not failing. You are simply arriving to yourself. So sleep now, not to escape life, but to return to it more gently in the morning. You are safe to let go. You are safe to rest. You are safe to begin again.